Donald Trump's latest social media post has taken direct aim at Joe Biden, making one of his most striking claims yet. Trump alleges that the pardons granted by Biden at the end of his presidency, particularly those given to members of the January 6th committee, are invalid. Biden had issued these pardons in anticipation that Trump might retaliate against those who investigated the Capitol attack. Now, Trump suggests that these fears were justified. In a post on Truth Social, Trump declared that the pardons were void, vacant, and of no further effect, arguing they were improperly issued using an auto pen, a device that reproduces signatures. Auto pens have historically been used by many U.S. presidents, but Trump insists this makes the pardons illegitimate. The pardons that sleepy Joe Biden gave to the unselect committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect because they were done by auto pen, Trump wrote. He further claimed that Biden did not know anything about them and that those responsible may have committed a crime. Without evidence, Trump also repeated accusations that the January 6th committee destroyed and deleted all evidence gathered during its investigation. Trump's statement continued. Those on the Unselect Committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. He also accused Biden of being mentally unfit, alleging that the former president was unaware of what he was signing. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. Meanwhile, on his first day back in office, Trump issued pardons to over 500 individuals convicted for their roles in the January 6th riots, dismissing the attacks on law enforcement as minor incidents. However, some recipients rejected the pardon, stating they should face consequences for their actions. Donald Trump has stated that Russia will agree to a 30-day ceasefire with Ukraine following discussions with Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin, according to reports from C-SPAN and Reuters. Speaking to the media, Trump expressed confidence that Moscow would accept the temporary truce, which had been coordinated with Kyiv during prior negotiations between Ukrainian and U.S. delegations in Jeddah. The U.S. president said that they would agree, sources confirmed. Trump previously announced that his upcoming talks with Putin on March 18th would cover key issues, including possible territorial concessions by Ukraine and control over the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. What's happening in Ukraine is not good, but we're going to see if we can work a peace agreement, a ceasefire and peace, and I think we'll be able to do it, Trump told reporters in Washington. Additionally, Trump suggested that his decision to freeze military aid to Ukraine in early March, along with a controversial Oval Office meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on February 28th, had helped convince Kyiv to consider negotiations. The planned discussion with Putin on March 18th, taking place in the morning Washington time, likely midday in Kyiv, aligns with Trump's broader efforts to broker a potential ceasefire in the ongoing war. This follows recent U.S.-Ukrainian talks in Saudi Arabia, where the American side proposed a 30-day truce. While Ukraine agreed, officials warned that Russia might not comply. So far, Moscow has not given a definitive response regarding its readiness to accept the ceasefire, with Putin outlining certain conditions. European leaders have also voiced skepticism over Russia's commitment to such an agreement. Meanwhile, the White House stated on March 17th that Trump is prepared to impose sanctions on Russia if his negotiations with Putin fail to yield a ceasefire agreement. Canada's PM invites Zelensky to G7 summit. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has extended an invitation to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to attend the G7 summit, set to take place in Kananaskis, Alberta, from June 15th to 17th, 2025. A government spokesperson confirmed President Zelensky has been invited to the G7 meeting in Alberta in June. Carney personally conveyed the invitation during a phone call with Zelensky the previous day. Reports indicate that the two leaders discussed key issues, with further details available in RBC Ukraine's coverage. G7 and Canada's role. As the current G7 president, Canada assumed leadership on January 1st, 2025, and recently hosted the G7 foreign ministers in La Malbaie, from a March 12 to 14. The upcoming summit will mark the 50th anniversary of the first G7 meeting and serve as a platform for addressing pressing global issues. World leaders will focus on international security, particularly the situation in Ukraine and strategies to counter Russia's aggression. G7 includes Canada, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United States. Medvedev warns of war with NATO over Ukraine peacekeepers. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev issued a stark warning on Sunday, threatening conflict with NATO if European nations proceed with their plans to deploy peacekeepers to Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer are playing dumb. Medvedev, who serves as deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, wrote on X, "Time and again they are told that peacekeepers must be from non-NATO states," he emphasized. Accusing the West of escalating tensions, he added, "You want to give military aid to the neo-Nazis in Kiev. That means war with NATO. Consult with U.S. President Donald Trump, scumbags." Starmer has proposed forming a coalition of the willing to send peacekeeping forces to Ukraine in anticipation of a potential ceasefire. Once regarded as a more liberal figure during his presidency from 2008 to 2012, Medvedev has gained attention in recent years for his increasingly aggressive rhetoric, including threats of nuclear strikes against the West. If you like this news and want more updates relating to this, please like, share, and subscribe. Rock band Semisonic denounces Trump administration for using closing time in deportation video. 90s rock band Semisonic has strongly condemned the Trump administration for featuring their hit song Closing Time in a White House video promoting deportations, arguing that the video completely misrepresents the song's meaning. On Monday, the band pushed back against a 16-second video posted to the White House's official Instagram. The clip shows a handcuffed man being patted down while the lyrics, "Closing time, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here," play in the background. Another shot appears to depict deportees boarding a plane, with a border patrol prominently displayed in the dark montage. Semisonic quickly responded, distancing themselves from the video and the administration's messaging. "We did not authorize or condone the White House's use of our song Closing Time in any way," the band stated on X. And no, they didn't ask. The song is about joy and possibilities and hope, and they have missed the point entirely. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the video, saying the administration is unafraid to message effectively what the president is doing on a daily basis to make our communities safer. She added, "The specific video you reference, I think it sums up our immigration policy pretty well. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here." Semisonic recently celebrated the 27th anniversary of Closing Time, reflecting on its enduring impact. "We can't believe it's been 27 years since we released Closing Time, a song that forever changed our lives," the band posted on March 10th, expressing gratitude to fans and collaborators. Trump expands U.S. travel ban to 43 countries. President Donald Trump has broadened the scope of his initial travel ban, now affecting 43 nations, as reported by The New York Times. The proposed restrictions classify countries into 3 categories, red, orange, and yellow, based on the severity of limitations imposed. The red list, comprising 11 nations, would face a bulky, complete entry ban. Among them are Afghanistan, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Syria, and Venezuela. Meanwhile, the orange list includes 10 countries whose citizens will encounter stricter visa requirements, such as mandatory in-person interviews. This category covers nations like Belarus, Pakistan, Russia, and Myanmar. The FAS yellow list, containing 22 primarily African countries, has been given 60 days to address U.S. security concerns. Those that fail to comply risk being moved to more restrictive categories. On the first day of his second term, Trump swiftly enacted executive orders aligned with his policy goals. "We are ensuring the security of our nation," he declared, emphasizing the necessity of these measures. An utter ignoramus, Canadian experts dismiss Trump's 51st state proposal as bluster. Canada's National Post consulted foreign policy experts on former President Donald Trump's suggestion to integrate Canada as America's 51st state, and their reactions were overwhelmingly critical. Jack Cunningham, an assistant professor of international relations at the University of Toronto's Trinity College, described Trump's vision as reducing Canada to an economic satellite and a storehouse for American resource needs. "I think Trump would like something along those lines," Cunningham remarked. "Though since he's an utter ignoramus, he doesn't really understand the economics or the history." Historian Craig Baird highlighted the long-standing border agreements between the U.S. and Canada, pointing out that Trump's desire to renegotiate them is unprecedented. "We're feeling betrayed," he said, referencing Trump's aggressive stance. Along with things like tariffs, there's talk of claiming the Great Lakes for themselves and redrawing the border. "It's throwing in the face of 200 years of progress and cooperation. It's really terrible, even if it's just bluster."